Hello again in this video clip series, My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. This should be video clip 124. We're talking again about the strategy of the devil to take us slowly away from the truths of God and away from God. In particular, forbidden to speak about sin, a very fundamental strategy of the devil. There's no more sin, so do whatever you want. Many who still continue on how we were talking about before, that very few confessions and many Holy Communions. Many who still go to confession today, even those, do not understand anymore what sin is according to the Catechism, because very few priests today take the risk of their primary job to help the souls identify and cure the mortal sicknesses of the souls, mortal sins. The Secretary of the Congregation for Clergy in 2009, Archbishop Mauro Piacenza, he lamented that many faithful no longer confess their sins. He said this even on radio, 2009. He said the sacrament of penance has been experiencing a deep crisis for decades. Piacenza, an official for the Vatican Office on Clergy, says fewer people distinguish between good and evil, and as a result do not go to confession. The Archbishop said in an interview that if faithful do not have a sense of sin, they might confuse confession with the couch of a psychologist or a psychiatrist. That's what's happening today. People they don't know what sin is anymore. They don't have a relationship with Jesus of love. So they don't know what that means to break that relationship with Jesus of love. What would you think of a doctor who cared nothing about disease and does not want to talk about disease, and sends patients with a grave disease home, telling the patient not to worry because the doctor was afraid of upsetting the patient? He would be considered a quack and incompetent, culpable of gross professional negligence. He could be sued for malpractice. But if priests do not speak about the only thing that can kill the soul, mortal sin, because the people, choice spiritual patients, do not want to hear these things, what would you think of such a priest? If the doctor operates in this way, the person could easily lose his life. But if the doctor of souls, the priest, does this, the person could lose his immortal soul, which lasts for all eternity. Jesus said, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his life?" Matthew 16. The Catholic Church has always taught conscience must be informed and moral judgment enlightened. A well-formed conscience, in the Catechism we read, a well-formed conscience is upright and truthful. It formulates its judgments according to reason, in conformity with the true good willed by the wisdom of the Creator. The education of conscience is indispensable for human beings who are subjected to negative influences and tempted by sin to prefer their own judgment and to reject authoritative teaching. This is fundamentally relativism. Find that in Catechism 1783. The absolute truth does exist. That's God. Conscience can remain in ignorance or make erroneous judgments. Such ignorance and errors are not always free of guilt. And you find that in Catechism 1801, 1713, 1714. And then the Catechism also states, no one is deemed to be ignorant of the principles of the moral law, which are written in the consciences of every man. Catechism 1860. Negligent religious leaders are often afraid to speak freely and say what needs to be said for fear of losing favor with people. I'm now quoting Pope St. Gregory the Great. that you can also read in the breviary, week 27, Sunday. They're afraid to speak and say what needs to be said for fear of losing favor with people. Pope Gregory continues. As truth himself says, that Jesus, they are certainly not guarding the flock with the care expected of a shepherd, but are acting like hirelings, because hiding behind a wall of silence is like taking flight at the approach of the wolf. These are the people whom the Lord is reproaching through the prophet when he says, they are all dumb dogs, they cannot bark. Isaiah 56. If a religious leader is afraid to say what is right, what else can his silence mean but that he has taken flight? Whereas if he stands firm in defense of his flock, he is building up a wall for the house of Israel against its enemies. And so again, the sinful people are told, your prophets have seen false and foolish visions for you. They have not exposed your iniquity in order to provoke you to repentance. That's from Book of Lamentations. That was from Pope Gregory the Great. A great number of pastors today want to close their eyes to the signs of the times, even to the point of convincing themselves and their flocks that the devil does not exist, and to even promise the happiness of this world in order to please people, as St. Augustine said. St. Augustine tells us, he says, what kind of men are they who, fearing to hurt those they speak to, not only do not prepare them for imminent temptations, but even promise the happiness of this world, which God did not promise to the world itself. You can find this in the St. Augustine in the breviary. The church put more than 10 days of St. Augustine's writings to the shepherds, week 24 and 25 in the breviary. A great lack of warning the souls of the beautiful lies of Satan, presented as if they were the truth, is a great betrayal on the part of pastors. That's their great betrayology. This is why St. Michael the Archangel at Garabandal, sent by Our Lady in Spain, 1965, said, many cardinals, many bishops, and many priests are on the road to perdition, and with them they are bringing many souls. If a priest truly loves the people in his parish, would he not want to help people to recognize and heal the greatest evil of the soul, mortal sin? Are priests today concerned about the eternal salvation of the souls entrusted to them, or do they believe that heaven is automatic and so they can concentrate only on this short life? You know, we find in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, written, number 409, the whole of history, man's history, has been the story of dour combat with the powers of evil. People don't want to combat to get to heaven. They just want to relax, and then to convince themselves heaven is automatic and hell doesn't exist. And after they're dead, they can't change their mind. The priests today who preach the whole gospel and all the teachings of the magistrate in the church are labeled rigid. That even Pope Francis labels these priests rigid, who preach the whole gospel. You can go to my articles and read a whole article on rigid on this part. They are labeled rigid and old-fashioned, insensitive, lacking in compassion, divisive, judgmental, moralists. While at the same time, the ones who maintain a culpable silence, the ones who tell their people what they think they want to hear, are seen as understanding, sympathetic, pastorally sensitive, and merciful. Luke 6, we read, woe to you when all men speak well of you. Again, another quote from Jesus, how can you believe who receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? By this way of doing things, it is not true mercy. It's false mercy. It's false love. It's misguided compassion. False ecumenism. which does not lead to heaven for all eternity. May God bless you and Mary guide you.